Those who wish to, we will now kneel for our moment of silence.
That was a moment of silence by Congressional Democrats who, quite frankly, them announcing that they were taking a knee and having a moment of silence for the murder of George Floyd was actually them breaking their silence, because they've been silent for decades. Fuck them. You know who it is. This is Koku. I'm just dropping in here for a little short talk. I'll be doing several of these over the next however long it takes until I'm back to doing full episodes on the Bit of Medicine podcast. Shout out to Onitase from the Pro-Black Perspective. He's been dropping a lot of material as of late, especially during my absence. Go and check out his channel, the Pro-Black Perspective. Check out that channel. He's been going over the Marcus Garvey course. Shout out to the Harsh Reality podcast. They've been doing their thing, even though they're busy and they got stuff going on, but they're out there doing their thing. And so I'm here today to talk about some of the shenanigans that's been going on. As you all know, George Floyd, a black man in Minnesota, was strangulated, choked to death by the knee of one of these KKK ops, these what some people call these race soldiers out here. One guy, Derek Chauvin, this racist cop, was on George Floyd's neck. Two other cops were on his back, on his legs, and he was handcuffed, laying face down on his stomach, by the way. And one of these Asian bastards of a cop was playing the lookout, trying to block people on the side of the street who were upset about the treatment of Mr. Floyd. And since Mr. Floyd's death, by the way, when Mr. Floyd was in distress, he was saying, "I cannot breathe," which is very reminiscent of what happened to one Eric Garner here in New York City back in 2014. He too was saying how he couldn't breathe. And today, in what's called Emancipation Hall over there in Washington, D.C., these congressional Democrats wore Kente cloth. They wore these stoles around their neck and shoulder made from Kente cloth during this moment of silence that I just played a second ago. Now, naturally, they drew a lot of criticism because we know pandering and political theater when we see it. It's 2020, man. We ain't in some rural sharecropping farm somewhere where we don't get information. We've had enough time to see this shit play out. We know what's going on, and it's insulting. You, like Malcolm X said, I was about to say you insult us, but no, actually you insult your own intelligence when you do some dumb shit like that. And I saw Nancy Pelosi, I saw fuck Schumer, I think it was Stacey Abrams there with her, trying to make sure her cooch doesn't show, because she's so idiotic. She's kneeling down in a fucking skirt. Instead, you put your two knees down on the ground, asshole, right? So this is the Democrats playing that game again. the game they've been playing for fucking decades. I mean, let's go back briefly in history for a second here, right? In 1964, there was one of these racist Republicans named Barry Goldwater. Side note, Hillary Clinton worked for the guy. Okay? Barry Goldwater in 64 called the civil rights movement unconstitutional. Now, why would you call the civil rights movement unconstitutional? See, a lot of people don't pay attention to wording and the words used. When something is unconstitutional, it means that it is not consistent with the nation. So let's put these thoughts together now. If the civil rights movement, meaning the civil rights for black folks, was unconstitutional according to Goldwater, that means that America is fundamentally anti-black racist. That's what that means. And so you got to understand where you are. We are not in a safe place. So what happened, there was some fallout from that because up until that point, black folks voted largely Republican. Lincoln, quote unquote, freed the slaves. Black folks voted for that party. But when that happened with Goldwater, black folks turned to the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party acted like Dave Chappelle that time when Dave Chappelle got the call from Oprah that she was pregnant. And he was like, "Gotcha, bitch." That's what the Democratic Party said to the black folks. "Gotcha, bitch." Because really and truly, the Republican Party, they pivoted at that point and they said, okay, well, we'll just focus on Southern whites. And they've never really looked back since then. They don't give a fuck about whether you vote or not. The Democrats do care that you vote, and they don't care that you vote for any good reason. A friend of mine posted on Facebook a couple of days back how you have to get out there and vote. This was in response to Trump and his bullshit. We know Trump is a vile racist. You know, there's no surprise there. So this black guy I know was posting about you got to get out there and vote and get this asshole up out of there. And I said to the guy, voting really doesn't change anything for black folks. And his response to me was, well, why is it that there's so much voter repression when it comes to black folks? And that's a simple answer. The simple answer is this. Here's what voting does. Voting allows certain people to get into office, and once they get into office, they monetize that for their own personal benefit. You remember a couple years ago, some people looked into Cory Booker's finances or whatever, his political earnings or whatever, and he was making a grip of money off of pharmaceutical companies. See, a lot of people don't realize New Jersey has a lot of pharmaceutical companies. Where Cory Booker is, Newark and all those places, a lot of pharmaceutical companies are out there. Cory Booker and people like that who are in politics, they try to get in office, and this is true here, the Caribbean, Africa, wherever. They get into power. There's money to be made if you're in power. There's less money to be made if you're not. The Democrats understand that if black people come out in high numbers and vote for them, they'll win, or they have a very good chance of winning. The Republicans know that if blacks don't come out in good numbers of this voter suppression, they know that they'll sweep the election. They'll take the election. So it's a power play that really has nothing to do with you except you tip the scales. That's all it is. They pander, they come around and they'll sing in a church and kumbaya and talk about hot sauce in their fucking purse and if you don't vote for me, you ain't black and all this shit that Biden did. They know what they're doing. They're just trying to have their chance in the sun. So the fundamental problem with the Democrats, man, I mean, again, two wings of the same racist bird, right? And if you want to see proof of that, look at the so-called liberals that are in these big Democrat cities. It's the liberals who come in and gentrify the shit out of the black community. Right? It's the liberals who come and talk shit like, well, I don't see color. Right? That's a Democratic thing. Colorblind. Oh, we're colorblind to racism. Oh, we're limited in what we can do. Right? They have this weird sense of what racial justice is, and that's what you saw in that video today that's been circulating. Their idea of racial justice is you go and you take a symbolic knee and you wear some Kente cloth. That most black Americans don't give a fuck about no Kente cloth anyway. These fuckers don't even care to be associated with being African, right? But the Democrats, that shows you how out of touch they are. They thought that was a good idea. The Democrats are these people that they'll acknowledge that there's a problem. Obama did that for 8 years. He knew there was a problem. He acknowledged there was a problem. But he always came with this little sissified response of, well, change is slow. It takes time. There's problems. But be the change you want to see. All this old bullshit he was out here talking about. Right? And he's been showing his head recently, too. He should be ashamed to even show his face. Right? So they like to act like, well, there are problems, but there's no real solution, or there's no quick solution. And Malcolm X talked about this years ago, decades ago. Malcolm X said, if you pull a 6-inch knife 3 inches up out of my back, after you stabbed me with it, right? You stab me with a 6-inch knife or something like that, you pull it 3 inches out, you want to call that progress. That's no progress. You're still fucking me up. And please, don't make no mistake that is the Democratic states. Most of this racial violence that we see is in a Democratic state or city. It happened plenty under Obama. It's happening now. Most of this violence is because Democrats, they ain't checking for you. Instead of these fuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and these people do something, create some legislation, like some nationwide legislation, or instruct these states to make legislation, sweeping legislations to change your predicament when it comes to these fucking KKK ops. They're taking a knee with Kente cloth on. The real history of the Democrats is that while they were pushing to desegregate the South, they were segregating the North. And it's still that way today. Talk to anyone from Chicago. Talk to us in New York. When you really peep it, black folks all live in the same area in New York. Might be different pockets of black folks, but for the most part, it's just black folks in the fucking area. And then the Democrats will act like civil rights fixed anything. In 1965, civil rights fixed everything for black folks. And we're out here today in 2020, we're worried about our children. We're worried about our brothers and even our sisters. R.I.P. to Breonna Taylor and all the other sisters these cops have killed. So if you're gonna vote, man, personally, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time. There could be some benefits locally, perhaps. I was talking to Judge Joe Brown on Twitter. Judge Joe Brown posted a status saying how black men with no record, especially, need to go out and get these 5 guns. And I agree with Judge Joe Brown. I do. If you've been listening to my show in the past, you know that I've had Maj Toure from Black Guns Matter on my show. I strongly agree, but I said, Judge, what about the fellas who live in these repressive cities like New York and Pennsylvania and stuff like that, Pennsylvania's a state, but Philly, you know what I mean, right? New York, the states of New York and Philly and stuff like that, and Pennsylvania. What are we to do when the gun laws make it damn near impossible to have a legal firearm? And he said to me, well, an election is around the corner. Vote wisely. That's bullshit, Judge. Judge, that's real bullshit. For all you people in especially these Democratic states, I want you guys in the comment section, tell me the name of a candidate running for office in your area. And especially you guys in New York. You guys inform me. Tell me a candidate who's running on gun reform. I'm pretty sure you'll be hard-pressed to find a candidate who's running on gun reform. Right? So let's stop playing. Let's stop playing. What we really need to have, and I was telling a sister this recently, what we really need to get are, we need to get black lawyers who have some consciousness to them, who can sit down with us in these states, right? And we can go over the law. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if any of you listening is a lawyer, right? But we can go over these laws and we could understand the laws and understand how to work around them, understand how to operate within them. We need lawyers now. We need law. The people who understand the law of the land to help us understand what can we do legally with this gun law situation. To help us to understand how to easier be able to go through the process. The process is crazy. There's a reason why you don't really see Maj Touré and them in New York. There's a reason. There's a reason why there's violence out here in New York. The goons in the street, I've talked about this in the show before, the goons on the street know that the chances are I don't have a gun on me. But they walking with their peace. And this is happening all on the Democratic watch. So when the Democrats took that knee and that moment of silence, you motherfuckers been silent forever. You've been silent forever. You've been failing these people who believe in the vote forever. Let's stop bullshitting now. Anyway, man, if you're going to go and vote, be strategic. Get something for your vote. And even that is almost impossible to enforce, because after someone comes to you and says, hey, vote for me, and you say, well, I'll vote for you under these circumstances, under these conditions, and they said, okay, and then they go and they get elected, there's nothing holding them to come back and do shit for you. In fact, that's what the Democrats always do. They come and they promise a bunch of shit, they get the vote and get the fuck out of there. And then distance themselves from black folks. And then use a proxy, a buffer, in the black caucus to come and talk down to you after. So if you're going to vote, man, if you're going to participate in the process, definitely hold them to a standard and find a way to enforce that they do for you whatever it is you want them to do. All right? I'll talk to you guys later.